Well, hello and welcome to the show, Katrena Friel. Lovely to have you here.
Thanks, Katrena. How fantastic. Great
We were
to
just,
see you here and all
we were
that.
just, we were just having a bit of a chat in the green room about the fact that we're both Katrinas, but one with an I and one with an E. And Katrena seemingly might be named after a famous Russian ballerina. Is that right?
Well, 4 girls, my mum named us all after Russian ballet dancers, so it seems. So mine's the most ordinary name out of all of them, but at least it's spelt funny.
Well, I think it's a wonderful name, just by the way.
Yes.
Well, it's lovely to have you here today. Katrena and I have only met each other just recently, but when we met, we just really clicked. There was a really great energy between us in our conversations, and I said, you know what, I would love to have you on our podcast and share your story with other people. So let's do that today. I guess, first of all, Katrena, why don't you give people a little bit of a background? Obviously, I've got to know you, but how do we help other people get to know you a little bit? So maybe share with us a little bit about your journey and what has led you to your current work.
Well, I was in a JOB, like most of us have been in JOBs all our lives. And about 25 years ago, I've been with my husband for over 36 years now, and we never wanted to have children. But one particular day, I felt like I needed to get down to the doctor. And while I was sitting there, she said, "You're pregnant." And I'm like, "What?" And we went through this whole experience of having a miscarriage, and that really put me in a very unusual grief position. And during that time, I saw an ad that was in full colour, and that was very unusual in those days. And it felt like the ad was calling my name. It's like my name was written on there, Katrena Friel, please apply. And so I applied, I signed up, I ended up investing over $30,000, and the guy ended up having nothing. It was a complete scam. And I went to my solicitor, and he said to me, "Look, is there any chance that you've learned a $30,000 lesson?" And in that moment, I realized that I had, and that I could get on with what my dreams were and what my goals were by myself, and I had what I needed inside of myself. So that formed the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, all through grief. And my husband believes that I wouldn't have signed up with him if I wasn't, if I was my full self, my full wits, as it were. But yeah, it was a terrible time, and yet when I look back on it, I thank that story. Because it took me off the default setting and put me on a trajectory that I still run to this day. It's great.
Mm. It's interesting. We often hear when people talk about moving from a life of default to a life of design that there is some type of pivotal, moment that happens. That sounds like what it was for you. I mean, what was it about that particular moment, or was it something else that, caused that change for you?
Well, I think there comes a time where your body starts to talk to you. So I always like to say to my clients, listen while it's a whisper. And you can tell when it's still a whisper is you've got a drop in energy getting out of bed. So normally when you love your life and you're doing what you're meant to be doing in that particular season of life, you jump out of bed and you get on with it. Whereas if you stay in the JOB a little bit too long, it gets harder and harder and harder to get out of bed. And I was already hearing those whispers of it's time for a change, it's time to evolve, it's time to learn and grow. And so if you don't do it proactively, my belief is the universe does it to you. And so in my case, there's this story and there's this experience, but I wonder, could I have listened a little earlier and started to make arrangements a little earlier rather than having this big dramatic experience?
It's interesting, isn't it? I think when you and I first had the conversation, um, we were talking about the fact that, sometimes you have these experiences and you don't even realize as you're having those experiences that they're actually making you into something. And that's really what happened for you, right? It's like you were having these experiences, but you didn't really know until there was this kind of major pivotal moment that went, okay, let's change and do something.
Yeah, it's when you're in it, you can't see the wood through the trees. But when you look back at all your changes in trajectory or evolutionary moments in your life, you can see that there's something before it, there's something during it, and then you can look back after it and go, oh, yeah, that makes total sense. There's a lot of meaning in that for you or for me. And all I want people to do really is sort of catch it while it's early, start to make changes proactively while it's a whisper, rather than waiting till you've got retrenched or something horrendous has happened that you didn't expect, that it's not on your terms. And that's when I think life can be quite scary. But at the same time, if you look at human behavior, we don't seem to want to change or do anything unless there's pain. And that's got to change. Surely we're at a stage in human evolution now where we can start to do it proactively and co-create with the universe, as we like to call it, but rather than being it forced upon and pushed along. It would be lovely if we were a little bit less prone to only responding to pain response.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about what you do now. So obviously that then kind of took you on a very different path in your life to something that you do now. And I think, is it right? You've been doing what you're doing for 25 years or something. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you then started on this path, and for a long time, you are now coaching and guiding other people to bring their own stories, their own sense of purpose to life. So maybe talk to us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah. So when I first started in my own business, I was doing a lot of corporate training and executive coaching, mainly in the leadership management space. And wherever I went, and no matter what day it was, no matter who I was in front of, there was always like this one person. I called them the shiny-eyed people that would come up and say, oh, I'd love to do what you do. And I kept thinking about it. Every time it happened, it was like, I'd love to do what you do. How did I do what I do? I don't know. It had just happened intuitively. I just worked it out by myself, and I was just sort of waddling along. But once I started to reverse engineer it, I realized that this could be something that I could teach, and that I would love to teach how I did it. So I started originally with groups. And so I'd have a beautiful retreat. We'd go away for days. We would do all the work on, and I'd teach everything they needed to know to become a author, speaker, trainer, coach, mentor, facilitator, and consultant. And I'd always check back with these people that I'd trained, and they'd done nothing. They'd set up nothing. There was no book. There was no keynote speech. There was no website, no social media set up, nothing. And so I started to realize, I really need to do it for them. And so that's where the DONE4U model started to come in, where I would do this 2-day kickoff where I'd do the training and give them the thinking behind what it is that we were doing, what we were building, why we were building, where the money is, where the money isn't. And from there, I would create the book, create the slides, create the brand, create the website, set up all the social media, create the signature program that's sort of a high-end ticket price. So it could be $10,000, $20,000 signature program. And then I got better and better at it, and technology worked with me, not against me. And so now I can set that up in 90 days. And then we spend the rest of the 12-month program actually out there doing it, and me holding their hands and coaching them through the highs and lows of actually going out with your baby and presenting it to the world.
I think what's really interesting about what you do, Katrena, is not only have you done it for yourself, you coach other people. And these are all people who have decided not to live a default life, right? They want to live a life that they want to design. And not only that, they want to take what's on their heart and give it out to other people through speaking and books and things like that. I'd just love to know from you, like, are there things that you see in these kind of people or, of your own experiences that, these people do that helps them to live a life by design, certain habits or whatever it might be?
Well, first of all, I started to realize very early on that that there was this thing that I call activated lifelong learners. And I believe that only 10% of people in the world are activated lifelong learners. And Katrena, I think we could safely say, you and I, from a very early age, you could tell we were activated lifelong learners. You can tell because they're usually quite, they're driven, they like challenge, they are proactive with their development, they're into personal development, they're into professional development, they want to be better, they want to grow, they get bored really quite easily. They don't like humdrum, they don't like boring routine that's going nowhere to do nothing. And so I realized that there was these two types of people, and most people are 90%ers. They are reactive with their development. They'll only learn something new if they absolutely have to and something bad's happened, like they've been retrenched or sacked, and only then will they roll their eyes and go, oh, I have to update my resume. Oh, I have to do an Excel spreadsheet course. Oh, I have to go on this recruitment meeting thing. Whereas activated lifelong learners are like, I've got my resume up to date at all times. My LinkedIn is refreshed regularly. Anything technical that I need to know, I'm across and I'm learning about it without any pressure. And we're loving life. So there's definitely two camps. And I work with, obviously, even if people are still in the 90% camp, what my job is, excuse me, is to switch them on. So when I go into a training room, I know already there's 10%ers sitting there and the rest are 90%ers. My job is, if I can recruit one or two people out of that room into switching on and becoming proactive with their development and loving learning again, that's my job, that's my mission. I do that at that very early stage. But by the time it gets to becoming the expert program and working with me, these people are already activated lifelong learners, and I ask them, do you feel it in your body? Can you feel it in your gut? Have you felt it all your life that you were born for something special, something different? And you know what? Shiny-eyed people can feel it in their bones. They just don't know what it is or how to put it together, or they don't even have clarity around what they're sitting on. I think they're sitting on a gold mine. And that's my job, is to show them the path path that's paved with gold. And that's beyond default. That's not just an ordinary life. This is a exceptional life where we get to, be an author and sign books and get up on stage and be clapped at the end of that. And we get to meet all the people and we get to train them and coach them and mentor them. I mean, that is a serious honor. And I just think what it takes for that one person to be sitting in front of me, working with me, it's 1,000,000,000 to 1 chance that I get to work with them. The universe could have sent them to anyone, but they didn't. This one was for me. This is the one I'm meant to help. And so it's a 1,000,000,000 to 1 chance that that individual is sitting in front of you. So, strap in, let's do the work, and, let's build your personal brand. And that's my job, to do that, is to create the expression of who they are at the soul level.
So, Katrena, you said something really interesting there around, these people come into a room with you and you get to see the gold mine that they've got right in front of them, right? And I remember when I first learned coaching, there was a beautiful lady, Kate Ramsey, who's based on the coast, on the Gold Coast in Queensland. she did some training with me on coaching, and she said her 100% belief around coaching was that people have the answer within themselves. It is actually our job as a coach to help them find it. And it sounds like that's what you do for people. It's like you can see in people that they have a potential to live a life by design, and that they are living, like literally sitting on top of something that has a lot of potential, but they haven't necessarily seen it and they don't know how to work with it. So I guess, how do you help people to find the answers within themselves?
Well, I think you bring up a good point around coaching, and people do not understand the difference between coaching and mentoring. See, if I sat around and just asked powerful questions and hoped to God that they get the answer out from inside of themselves, we would be there all day. It would take forever. And we don't have time for that. I've got to put all this together in 90 days for them. So that's why I call myself a business mentor. A business mentor knows. A business mentor has the answer to this particular question. And what they're buying off of me is 25 years of development. They want the template. They want the path. They want the strategy. So we don't have to think about all of that. That's all there, ready to go. TikTok. There's your 7 streams of income. This is how you get there, and this is the program I've laid out for you. And as my clients will say to them, just lean back, relax, and trust the process. We're going to go through this step by step, and we're going to get the job done. Whereas if I was a pure coach, and not to say I don't coach, so to me, in one conversation, I could be training, coaching, mentoring, facilitating, all in the one conversation. So I don't do pure coaching because we just don't have time for that. So I'm very much more, 80% of my work is more mentoring. This is me saying, I've been there, I've done that, I know exactly how that feels, I know what you're going to come up against. And, you know, building your own business is like the world's best, you know, it's like the best personal development program you'll ever do.
Yes.
You come up against everything that's inside of you that needs to be cleared, that needs to be evolved, and you need new programming around. So that's my job. Is a mentor really fast tracks your thinking. I give them absolute clarity around who they are, what their message is, and it's got to resonate. It's not something that I just make up out of my head. I'm doing this very intuitively. This is my honed skill. This is my genius zone where I can listen to somebody's story, and in that free discovery session, within the first 15 minutes, I can see it all as it appears. And that to me is magic. That just happens to be my magic. But the beauty of it is they get to finally know who they are and what they could do if they were willing to get off the default setting.
Well, I love this, you know, because I think what's really interesting is a lot of people go and get advice from others who do not have the experience. You know, I think there's a really good lesson here is, you know, get your coaching and mentoring from the people who've already traveled the path that you're on. Tap into their expertise. And as you say, like as a coach and mentor who's traveled that path, you then get the ability to coach, mentor, teach, whatever you need to do that's going to benefit that person to get where they want to go as quickly as they can get there.
Yeah, with business and starting your own personal brand business, you don't know what you don't know. So, of course, you need a mentor to show you what is possible. Whereas if you ask them and purely coach them, they wouldn't know what they wouldn't know. They don't even know the first step. They don't know what you do first. And I reckon when you're setting up a business, there is actually an order to things. And I've kind of worked out the order so that it's easily effortless. All the work gets done while you sleep. And you don't need to be a business setup expert. You need to be the expert in your field of excellence. So I do all that dirty work behind the scenes to get all that done so that you're not spending 5 years trying to work it out by yourself and spending $75,000 trying to work it out by yourself, by talking to all these different people about all their silver bullets and, you know, all the things. So what I try to do is go, well, in 90 days I can set that up. You don't need to know about all of that. Then we get started. Now you can hit the road. Whereas it's so horrible when my clients who have done the 5 years and the $75,000, they go, oh, I wished I'd met you 5 years ago. And I'm like, I know, right? that hurts my heart. It really does. So I try to capture them before they've wasted time and money. That's ideal.
Yeah.
That's ideal.
Yeah, it's pretty heartbreaking when you see people who they really have something to offer others, but they just don't know how to put it into a system to do that. So speaking of systems, I would love to know from your perspective, you know, like you have been, you're an entrepreneur, you made a decision to build this business. Many people don't even last 5 years in business. You've lasted, 25. So what are some of the strategies that you've used along the way? You talk about activated learning before, you know, what do you do as far as personal development? You know, tell us a little bit about this.
So the first thing I would recommend is you've got to respect technology. There is no other threat on your SWOT analysis except for technology. And what's happened with a lot of people, you know, from Gen X onwards, Gen X's, if you've missed the boat and you didn't stay up to date with your technology, it's very, very, very difficult to run a business now. Very difficult. So my job is to take them from usually intermediate technical skills from their work, you know, they're able to do the basics, and I get them up to here with their business technical skills so that they know how to run their business day to day from an operations point of view. So that's my first piece of advice is don't say, oh, I know nothing about technology. Oh, I hate technology. Oh, well, that's going to be very tough if you go into business, if you're trying to go into business for yourself and you can't turn things on and off. And now AI is coming, so it's adding another wave that's coming your way. And if we miss this wave, we're going to be literally left behind, and you won't be able to function day to day. So that's my first piece of advice. I've always loved technology. I've been on technology since 1984. Oh gosh, my apologies. Very dry today.
Oh, that's okay. You can have a drink of water if you like, Katrena.
I've been on it since 1984 when my mum sent me to this computer programming course in Chatswood back in the day when I was a kid. And I tell you what, I've loved it ever since. And so I've had this yearning to stay up to date the whole time. And it's just now something I can earn a living out of, which is amazing. The second thing is our programming, our mindset. Everyone goes on and on and on about mindset all the time. But if you don't have a growth mindset, if you don't have an entrepreneurial mindset, you really are going to struggle because everything in business is changing. Everything evolves over time. You can't just stay stuck doing the same old routine. So people who are fixed mindset do tend to struggle. They won't have what it takes to stick it out. That's why most people don't survive because they think business is like having a job. It's nothing like it. People in a job have what I call institutionalized thinking. So they're institutionalized. They're used to being given a fish at the end of every week, regardless of whether they were good or regardless if they added any value. They get their little fish at the end of every week and they're happy as Larry. Entrepreneurs, we have to hunt. We have to know how to fish, and we need to love doing that bit. And so part of my job is to make people love marketing, love sales, love that educational piece. And so we never really call it sales. We call it education. So you either educate it well and people can connect with it, or you educate it badly and nobody cares. So you've got to get really good at educating your market about what you think is important. Otherwise, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Every time you talk to an audience, a third of people will love you, a third of people will hate you, and a third of people don't care. So There's your customers, your potential customers are sitting in the audience, and that's only a third of them that are going to relate to who you are and what you've got in your message to help them. So mindset, entrepreneurial mindset, all of that stuff needs to be looked at. So definitely Google that, chat GPT that, get educated around that. But within that piece, there is a leadership piece, a self-leadership piece. And when you look at self-leadership, you look at EQ, your emotional intelligence, and it's made up of self-awareness. So that's your top priority, is to be really self-aware around your good, the bad, and the ugly, your trauma responses, your triggers, all the things. So get very self-aware. And most of us have been on that journey for over 25 years now. And then you've got to be really good at self-regulating. So in business, good things will happen, bad things will happen, but you want to stay on an even keel. You want to be able to self-regulate really well and not be so dramatic ups and downs. If you're one of those, what I call drama Bahama people, everything's a drama. Oh my God. You're not really going to survive business, because, things are going to get tough, and you're going to have to make tough decisions and be a leader. And if you're not quite used to that, that's going to be quite dramatic. So self-regulation within EQ is important. Then your motivation, your empathy, and your social skills. Those 5 things inside emotional intelligence are the 5 keys in the leadership piece that you need within the self-leadership piece to make sure that you can survive it. And thrive is really the key. We don't want to just survive. We want to thrive within our entrepreneurial story. And it should be fun. God, we take ourselves so serious. None of us are brain surgeons. None of us are living a life and death experience. So have fun along the way. Every day should be a laugh, a bit of fun, and don't take ourselves too seriously. It's just not that serious.
Wow, what spectacular advice. Oh my goodness. I hope people have got their pens and paper at the ready when they're listening to this. That was a podcast talk in itself. Just sensational, Katrena. Thank you so much. Have you got any particular books or podcasts that you might follow, particularly around that kind of entrepreneur self-leadership space?
Well, I'm editing books every day. I'm building websites every day. I'm on podcasts all the time, and I love podcasts. I think that's just such a wonderful place to learn. So no major recommendations, just that keep reading, because there's so much you can get out of a $20 book. Listen to podcasts, find your favorites. Find the voices that you love, and be really listening to business and entrepreneurial type ones. But the problem with doing that when you haven't started your business is you've got no context around what they're saying and why they're saying it. So really, if you haven't started yet and you've got no context around business, then really just be focused on the mindset and your personal development, and, making yourself strong, ready for the marathon race, because it is a marathon. It's not a sprint, and every day you learn something new. But one of the greatest books I think I read at the very beginning that set me on fire was the old Think and Grow Rich, that still is one of the top books. Every other personal development book came out of the inspiration from this core book. So there's nothing new. This book's been around since the 1920s, 1940s or something like that. And everything you see today in the personal development world has stemmed from this particular book. The only problem with this book is that it is old-fashioned in its languaging. For example, one of the chapters is about picking a good wife, and that a good wife and a good woman behind you will be a secret to success. Now, all you need to do is get over yourself and understand that I've been married for over 36 years and I am successful because of my man. I picked a good man, someone that was going to love me, support me, wrap me and cocoon me when I needed it, but also allow me the freedom to get out and do and be and express myself. So I still believe that chapter holds a lot of wisdom, but just if you're a man or a woman or whichever partner you prefer, just, the message is there. Don't get too wrapped up in the old-fashionedness of the woman behind the man. It's also the man behind the woman. And you have a look at the most successful women, they have a terrific man. Have a look at Oprah, a silent, strong, steady man behind her, not trying to take the limelight, not trying to be anything fancy, just there and focused on her and none of the other distractions. And so, look at your partner. Your partner will make or break your career and either distract you with all this shit and rubbish or will be the support you need to get yourself there.
So good, Katrena. Do you know, we are reading that book at the moment. We have recommended it to our leaders across our business. I cannot believe that, people could have thought we set this up actually.
Synchronicity. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's really interesting hearing them. So we've actually got a book club on this weekend where we're going to be debriefing the book, and it's been really interesting hearing people talk about the book throughout their reading experience and going, oh my gosh, this is a hard read. But the people who are pushing through, they are getting such good insight from the book. So thank you so much for recommending that.
Oh, the greatest book ever written. And as I said, everything has spawned from that book, really, when you really unpack it.
Yeah, there's so much stuff in it. I was reading it and thinking, oh my goodness, I learned all of this in my brain-based coaching accreditation, and I'm learning it now, but it was known 100 years ago. Okay, lastly, I know we're going to finish up. So lastly, how do people find you? If they are intrigued to work with you, find out about what you do, how do they find you?
Well, I like to offer a free discovery session. So if you go to the website becomingtheexpert.com.au and just click on the free discovery session, book yourself in, regardless of whether you work with me or not, it's still going to be a fantastic hour of my life that I'll never get back. But I want to get in there and unpack and give you some clarity around what might be next for you. And it's a wonderful, generous experience and no obligation, but I love doing them. And it's my way of giving back to those people that could never work with me, or it just is too much for them to handle. But at least you'll get clarity as to what you're here to do, what your mission is on earth, what your sole purpose is, and just get on with that. So I look forward to meeting your listeners and providing that service and giving them a lot of my generous time, and have fun with it. We'll have a lot of fun.
Well, thank you, Katrena. I definitely know from just the short space of time that you and I have been chatting with each other that I certainly got huge amount of value out of our interactions together, and I know other people would as well. But I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being here today. There is so much goodness in this podcast, and I really appreciate you sharing all of that with us.
Thank you for having me, Katrena. I hope this is not the last time we see each other.
Oh, for sure not.
We'll see each other soon over a champagne.
Oh, I look forward to that moment, especially. Thanks, Katrena. Hey.